This is a matter of life and death. But I can perform this miracle.
How deep did you go on the science? Did you feel compelled to understand how the atomic bomb was created?
I felt that a good understanding would help me explain it to the audience, because the audience can't, just like I can't, in 3 hours you can't take on quantum physics, you can't figure everything out. But by understanding the history behind it, and speaking to my friends like Kip Thorne, the Nobel Prize winning physicist I collaborated with on Interstellar, by getting a sort of a lay person's understanding of the issues, I can then help the audience understand what's important. So the audience doesn't need to know the difference between an atomic bomb and a hydrogen bomb in technical terms, but if they can learn that a hydrogen bomb is 1,000 times more powerful than an atomic bomb, that's a resonant thing in a motion picture story. So by learning enough about it to be able to figure out what's important, that's sort of the role I play.
Your films often investigate that fertile territory between science and magic, between technology and art. When you're making a film, how do you see yourself? Are you more of the scientist or the artist? And how do you balance those two?
I see myself as a craftsman, I suppose. A craftsperson who's looked at all the different disciplines that you have to bring to bear as a film director. And I like that about it. I like that you're sort of jack of all trades and master of none. That suits me. I'm not a specialist. And so I dabble in areas and I bring things together in different ways. And I think that film does require something of a scientific or a mathematical brain in terms of structure and planning and so forth. But then it requires the looser, freer sensibility of a writer, an artist, those kind of things. I enjoy all those disciplines and the way they come together in filmmaking.
And this is your 6th outing with Cillian Murphy.
Yeah.
When did you first notice that resemblance to Oppenheimer, and when did you feel compelled to make the film with him?
Well, when I'm writing, I try not to think of actors because it's limiting. If you're writing from things you've seen them do before, you're not going to challenge them fully on the page. Particularly dealing with a real-life figure, I'm trying to write the real-life Oppenheimer. Then when you finish, I'm sitting there looking at the copy of American Prometheus, the book I'm adapting, and there's this picture of the real-life Oppenheimer with this intense blue-eyed stare looking out at me, as I have been for months. And suddenly I'm like, okay, I know who can do that. And I've worked with Cillian for 20 years. I know he's one of the great actors, but I've never worked with him as a leading man. And so this time we got to pick up the phone and say, okay, this is the one where you're taking center stage. And not just that, I've written the script in the first person. You're gonna have to take the audience with you. We're gonna see everything through your eyes.
If Inception were real, would you advocate for going into Oppenheimer's brain and incepting that idea of not building the atomic bomb?
I mean, it's funny, the reference in Tenet to Oppenheimer and the moment that the scientists realized they couldn't fully eliminate the possibility of a chain reaction that would destroy the world.
As they approached the first atomic test, Oppenheimer became concerned that the detonation might produce a chain reaction.
Engulfing the world. They went ahead anyway and got lucky.
I put that in Tenet because Tenet's very much a film about that issue. It's very much a film about, could you put the toothpaste back in the tube? Is there a way to uninvent something? And then having wrestled with that in a science fiction sense, I was left with a burning desire to look at it in a real life sense and say, okay, in this universe we live in where you can't, what does that therefore say about his story? What does that mean? And in the universe in which we live, sadly not some multiverse where we can change things like that, in the universe in which we live, his story raises really profound and troubling questions.